Recording. So welcome. Our guest today is Brooke, and Brooke is 31 years young. She has no kids and she's single. She's been dating someone off and on again for about 2 years now. And the primary issue that she's bringing is an issue of trust. And she did send me some details of her background, and from the looks of it, that trust issue is with good reason. There's a lot going on with different abuses and cheating and all kinds of things that are leading up to that. So welcome, Brooke. It's good to have you here, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. So how about if you share a little bit about how the trust issue is affecting your life currently, and then we'll get a little bit of like your background and everything with that if we need to, in order to really figure things out.
Sounds good. So right now I have a difficult time really trusting anyone, to be honest. Whether it's a coworker or a significant other, it's hard for me to maintain any relationship because I have that doubt that they're going to break my trust or lie to me about something, even if it's something silly, like a little white lie. I'm constantly living in that fear that they're going to lie to me or do something to hurt that trust because it's happened so often. So I've been seeing this guy for a little over 2 years, and he's lied to me a couple times. And so I have a hard time getting over that. So now anything that he says, I question. Or if he doesn't, answer my text message back or something within what I find to be a reasonable time.
Right, sure.
Then my mind starts to wander and I start having those negative thoughts about what could be going on. And then I feel like I honestly self-sabotage myself then, because of my trust issues that have evolved over the years.
Yep. Okay. And that makes total sense. And I mean, really, honestly, with your background and your history, it's not surprising that you'd be in that place. And really, I see it a lot with women, even when that's not necessarily their backgrounds. Like, just our culture kind of has us expecting things of our partners and expecting them to cheat and thinking, oh, if they go out with their buddies and get drunk, then they're going to cheat on me. I used to have that as a belief myself. So, you watch enough after school specials or something.
Yes.
That's what you start to believe is going to happen.
Right.
And it's just part of the programming. So it's not a huge surprise that your brain would go there anyway. And then with everything that's happened, I would say that, it's really warranted.
Yes.
So you're not crazy.
That's good to hear.
It's a completely natural reaction. But the thing that tends to happen is that we get treated a certain way when we're young. So if somebody's bullied, if somebody's cheated on, if somebody's lied to all the time, that's how we begin to think either this is how the world works, this is how people treat me, or this is how I deserve to be treated. And everybody internalizes things a little bit differently. So what it is that you decide about that thing is going to be different person to person. But when you have a lot of lies around you, a lot of dishonesty, and a lot of withholding when you're a kid, then you're going to make some kind of belief decision unconsciously that this is how relationships are, this is what a romantic relationship looks like, or this is how people treat me, or this is how I deserve to be treated, this is what I can expect in my relationships. So then you're kind of energetically projecting that outward.
Right.
Because if you've ever noticed, you can see like a woman walk by who doesn't take great care of herself, and you go into immediate judgment. Like there's just this knee-jerk reaction of like, oh, why doesn't she take better care of herself? Why doesn't she dress better? Or why does she lose weight or whatever? And then we'll see another woman walk by and be like, oh wow, she looks really great, you know, or maybe not even notice her at all. And the thing is that we're picking up how they feel about themselves. So,
Right.
you know, with the first woman, we're picking up her energy of what she believes about herself and how she feels about herself. And so she doesn't like herself. She feels like she should lose weight. She thinks she's a loser. Like, and
Right.
that's what she's projecting outward. And, you know, the other women, it's like they love themselves, they take care of themselves, or they're more neutral about themselves. And so we'll energetically kind of react to that without even knowing. Like, we don't consciously process that. And in fact, we usually blame ourselves for judging other
Right.
people in that way. We'll be like, why did I just judge her for that? Um, and often it's us reading their invisible billboard of them advertising to
Yes.
the world, this is who I am and this is what I think of myself. So we project that to other people. So when we form a belief, like everybody's going to withhold love from me, or everybody's going to lie to me, or everybody's going to cheat on me, then the people who don't resonate with that will see that billboard and be like, I'm not interested in being involved with this, and they'll just kind of wander off. And the people
Right.
who are willing to oblige will come right into your reality, and they will prove that belief to you even more strongly. They'll be like, yeah, that's what you deserve. Here you go.
Exactly. Yeah, let me hand it to you.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And then it just proves that belief even more strongly. So it becomes more ingrained in your energy. It becomes an even bigger thing. So, you know, you're attracting it, you're advertising it, you're expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking
Yep.
it's the only,
Adding it all up for myself.
yeah, the only thing that's out there. Um, so that's really what needs to be dealt with is, you know, all of those expectations, all of those beliefs about yourself, all of those beliefs about relationships, the beliefs about the world in general. Those are the things that need to be altered for you to be able to expect something different, attract something different, create something
Yes.
different, and experience something different. So
Right. Yes. I definitely need that.
a lot of it has to do with your own perception and expectations. So I think that's really where you start, is kind of working on that. So my recommendation really would be to use the click tracks. I'm assuming you've gotten some experience with some of the PS Tech tools.
Yes, I did use them a couple times.
Okay,
Hmm.
great. So the click tracks that I ask everybody to kind of be familiar with when they do this process are for removing the emotional pain around things. So that's where I would usually start. And it would absolutely be a good idea for you to go through like your whole history of cheating, like the whole history in your life of people cheating on you. Doing a round where you know, you start with the more recent examples of that, people like cheating, lying, whatever. And then going back as far into your history as you possibly can where people have like cheated and lied, having a fit about all of that put together. So the reason you start with the more recent example is that's where the pain is most intense. So
Definitely.
you go there first and you get good and worked up from that. And then you go, I felt like this at this point, and this point, and this point, and this point, and this point. And you just kind of go through as many examples as you can come up with of people treating you that way.
Okay.
Um, so I would do a round on the cheating and lying. I would do a round on feeling unwanted.
Definitely.
That was a big one for me too. Like as I was reading your background, um, your mom, you had said that your mom considered having an abortion and just couldn't go through with it. Uh,
Yes.
my my mom was 17 when she found out she was pregnant with me, a little Catholic girl. And so she freaked
Mm.
out when she found out she was pregnant with me as well. And
Yep.
oddly enough, like that's the thing that had me blocked through the majority of my life and constantly trying to get everybody to prove they wanted me, like every second of every day, was because
Yes.
like of course a 17-year-old woman does not want to have a baby. Like, so
Right.
on a conscious logical level, I never took that personally, but the fetus version of myself that was there when my mother was like finding out I existed and going, I don't want this, that embedded itself into me. And so I spent a lot of energy trying to get everyone to prove they wanted me
Right.
all the time. So what I did to clear that was I thought about like some of the more recent romantic rejections where I felt unwanted sexually, romantically, whatever. Got good and worked up about that. And then was like, going through the whole timeline of everything that really stood out to me as representing being unwanted, or things I could have perceived as meaning I was unwanted. Like my mom finding out she was pregnant with me and not wanting that. Um, Even though I was loved and welcomed and all that by the time I was born, like that,
Right.
I still was carrying that from the initial reaction. So, the story that my mom had told me about when she found out she was pregnant with me and, everything that played out from that, I just kind of acknowledged that, and then acknowledged that my dad, well, my parents divorced when I was 1, so I probably thought my dad didn't want me. And
Mm-hmm.
then flirting with 5-year-old boys to try to get attention, and they didn't want any part of that, so they didn't want me. And all the times that my mom didn't pay attention to me when I wanted attention, which all mothers do that, at some
Right.
point. Uh,
Yes.
and then all of the times that the honeymoon phase came to an end when I wasn't ready for it. So that just meant all those people didn't want me. So I just kind of had a
Right.
fit about all of that mixed together. So I'm sure you can come up with a lot of points in your life where you can remember feeling unwanted, or also things that from the time that you were conceived till now that probably would have made you feel unwanted in those moments. Like
Definitely. I have
if
got a
your
lot of
dad
those.
left at some point, or the fact that
Yep.
your mom wanted to get an abortion but just couldn't go through with it, and um, anything of that nature, plus anything you can like consciously remember that really stands out is like, oh, they didn't want me either. So
There's a list.
yep, yeah. And it can be really helpful actually to like kind of go through and write it all down at first, just so you have like this general idea of like, what do I want to address like while I'm doing this, so that I can hit as many roots of this trigger as I possibly can.
Yes.
Um, and then when you go in and you're kind of thinking about that list that you made, your brain might even start showing you more. So trust,
Oh, wow.
if your mind starts to wander and another memory pops into your head, be like, oh yeah, that's related to this too. Let me add that in, and start including that in your fit as well.
Perfect. Okay. I could
Yeah.
definitely do that. It will
So
not be hard to make a list.
yeah, so I mean, I would start with those. Um, but I really feel like beliefs are a big piece of this for you. And I know you already have the click tracks at home. So
Hmm.
if we're going to make the best use of our time here together, I think it might be good for us to do some belief blasters work so that you can experience that a little bit. And
That
that
sounds
way
great.
you can decide if you want to purchase belief blasters at some point in the future. But for now, just to kind of dig up, like, what are some of the most limiting beliefs for you in your relationships and stuff, so that you can start chipping away at the belief level of things. And then you can just take the suggestions that I gave you to work on the emotional pieces of it.
Perfect. That sounds great.
I don't want to give you the impression that it only takes 2 rounds to get over something as, as monumental as all of the things that you've been through. First of all, it will probably take multiple rounds of both of those rounds that I just told you. So that
Sounds
is
good.
something to be aware of, because you want to keep going with each one until you get it down to a 1 or a 0, like to where when you think about that thing happening to you, it doesn't hurt at all.
Okay.
So I know it's hard to
Perfect.
imagine that you could get there, but that's what you want to do, is keep going
Right.
until you get it down
It'll be
to,
nice.
I have no emotional reaction when I think of the possibility of this happening to me. So,
Yes.
but there is a whole onion to be peeled. And so there will be many more themes, but I give you those suggestions as a way of really looking at, like, what are the themes that keep playing out in my life? People not giving me control over my own body. That
Yeah.
could be another theme of all the times you have felt that somebody didn't let you have control of your own body. So it's really just watching for what bothers me most. What are the things that keep happening to me over and over and over again in my life? And then using the click track to have a fit about all of those examples of that similar thing happening to you with this person and this person and this person and this person, so
Yes.
that you can kind of like clear it overall. And the reason that we're looking at both the current time and the past is to get it at the root. So the current time, that's where the feelings are going to be strongest. So that's where you're showing your brain, like, this is the feeling that needs to be removed from this trigger. And then you're looking at the past to show, like, what are the roots of this, so that that feeling can be removed from all of those roots. And
All
that's
right.
why you're doing that as that kind of process.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So the more roots you can find, the more roots you can acknowledge, the better clearing you're going to
Songs.
get of that as a trigger for future you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I will write a list of that too.
Yeah. So I'm sure you'll come up with plenty of things, themes in your life that you can click track, especially with your romantic relationships, because that's where our biggest stuff tends to show up, is from our romantic lives. So making sure that you watch for what triggers come up in your love life. And then what does that remind you of? When has someone said something like that to you, done something like that to you, made you feel that way? And just include as many examples that are similar as you possibly can.
Could abandonment, like from my father, from when I was born, be related to my trust issues? Does that
Definitely.
make sense?
Yes. Yes. So I had a client in the past who was actually really close to her father growing up, and he died when she was 12. And
Oh
she,
yeah.
ever since, has had a lot of difficulty opening herself up to men, because she has always felt like, if I open myself to a man, he's going to leave me, or he's going to die, or whatever.
Right.
So she has always kind of protected herself and been emotionally unavailable, or sought out men who were emotionally unavailable, because her father was so warm and loving and connective, and she just couldn't bear the thought of opening herself to something like that again and being hurt all over again.
Right. Yeah.
So we really had to kind of dive in and look at the pain of that, definitely, having her use the click track to miss her father, to mourn the fact that he left, and to be able to work through that pain. But then also doing rounds where we looked at um, the more recent times where she didn't feel comfortable or wasn't happy with these men, and her reactions to how closed off they were or whatever, because some part of her did want the connection, even though deep down she was avoiding
Yes.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to clear the problem by having her kind of go through the feeling of disconnection with the men in her life and them shutting her out, but then including in that round with them shutting her out, her father dying, because that was his version, shutting her out, abandoning her. And
Yes.
so, the current men in her life were emotionally abandoning her, while her father physically abandoned her. So that's what you kind of want to look at with the abandonment piece, is that when your father abandons you at a really early age, to some degree, you kind of are always expecting all men to abandon you
Exactly.
forever.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm like, if the one person that I feel like it should love me, and should have my back and be there for me, cannot, then how can anybody else? How can any other male do that, if that makes sense? And then I
Right.
see like other friends or family members that have like cousins or whatever that have a dad that's an active role, and it's nice to see someone else that has it and see how their personality is completely different from mine, I feel like, and their feelings on certain things are different because they've had that father role in their life and haven't had him, abandon them and stuff. So, and the relationships, like the relationships that they can hold on to and build with men or women, is completely different than the emotional relationships that I can build with people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If
And
that
that's
makes sense.
exactly what happens. And even if somebody had the exact same history as you, they may have different triggers than you do, or different beliefs that they've formed as a result of going through the things that you've been through. Because everybody's kind of born with their own personality and their own ancestral triggers that get passed down, and soul experience and things like that as well. So everybody has a little bit of different perception of the things that happen to them and what those things mean about them. But it is very interesting sometimes to see somebody who's been down a similar path as you, and intrinsically you would think like they would be very much like me if they had been through the things that I'd been through, instead of the different path that they
Right.
ended up on. And that is also very likely the case, that they would have been probably more similar to you, or your experience would have been more similar to them, had you not had that difference in what your father, whether your father was there for you or not. So I would I would use the click track to think about the fact that you expect men to leave, or are afraid they're going to leave. I don't know which one feels bigger to you.
Honestly, I'm just always afraid they're going to leave,
Okay.
that they're going to find someone else, or
Yep. So
mainly that's the idea.
I would then focus on that fear. So start with the current guy you're seeing. What if he leaves? What if he cheats on me with someone else? Or what if he just decides to leave me, or whatever? Freak out about that, get as worked up as you can about that, and then think about other people who've broken up with you, or left you, or cheated on you, whatever. And then go back to your dad, and that he left and abandoned you, and now then you loop back to the present thing of like, now I'm afraid that this guy's going to leave me, and of course I believe that because my dad did, and this guy did, and this guy did, so of course this guy's going to leave me, and like freaking out, like, what if he does, and that's going to feel just like when my dad left me. And so
Yep.
that's the kind of thought process that you'll be thinking while you do that.
Okay. Perfect.
And I would imagine that there's probably also other examples of people abandoning you. I mean, sometimes triggers get applied to just one sex, but it may also make you insecure in friendships,
Definitely.
or any
I
other.
feel like I feel like my mom somewhat abandoned me, is how I describe it, when she married. So it was just me and my mom, for the first 7 years of my life. Because when I was born, my dad came around for like the first year, and then when my mom cut off ties to her, then he stopped coming around just to see me. So um, when I was around 6 years old, my mom started dating my stepdad, and we ended up moving out with him when I was 7. But for the first, almost 7 years of my life, it was just me and my mom. And so to have someone else come into the picture, and then when we moved out with him, the way I describe it is like he was the new shiny toy, if that makes sense. And so I felt at that age that she spent, 80% of her time with him and only 20% with me, if that makes sense. And,
Yes.
it went from 100% down to minimal. So then I acted out in order to get her attention. But at that point, I felt abandoned by my mom. And the one person I felt like I felt abandoned by then at that point too.
Yes. So that's definitely something that you want to include in that round when you're dealing with the abandonment theme in your life, and that you're afraid that this guy's going to abandon you, and that you're always afraid in every relationship they're going to abandon you. Yes, you'll include your father in that, but definitely because you have such a clear memory of it with your mother, that'll be a big one too.
All right.
So including that, what you just told me, like that chunk of story that you just told me, can be part of that same round.
All right. I will definitely include that.
Great. All right. So let's look at some beliefs of, what do you believe is going to happen in your romantic relationships?
Um, Honest beliefs. I believe that the man is just going to leave,
Mm-hmm.
generally for another woman. Um, I believe that there are others out there that can offer more, whether it be emotionally, physically, money, whatever. So I always feel like,
So that other women have more to offer than you do?
yes,
Okay.
definitely. Um, I believe that sometimes I'm not worthy, I guess. I guess that's a self-worth thing. I need to learn my self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Boy, there's so many that trail back to abandonment, or, I just feel like I'm not worthy, I guess. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. And I don't know
Okay.
why I don't feel that way, because on one side I feel like I am. Like I deserve this. But then once I get in a relationship, then I'm like, "Oh, I don't know that I deserve this." So
Yeah.
it's just I feel like I'm playing tug of war with myself.
Yeah. And that's really what belief work is all about, because the majority of people who work with me have done a lot of work on themselves. So they'll have read a lot of self help books, or been to therapy, or done a lot of spiritual work. And so they'll understand that these beliefs that they're behaving as though they believe are ridiculous.
Right.
You know on one level that you are worthy.
Right.
And yet, part of you clearly is behaving as though you're not. And you can recognize that part of you is still like, no, not worthy, not good enough. Other people are better than me. So that is the difficulty with doing belief work, because some part of you is kind of like, this is a ridiculous belief. It makes it a little bit difficult to do the process on it, because part of you already doesn't buy into it. So you
Right.
have to some degree, play devil's advocate and let the part of you that does believe that have their say while you do the belief process. So you kind of want to completely shut out the enlightened part of yourself while you're doing this work, and just let that dark side of yourself, the inner child, the scared part of you, the part of you that's in pain, that's the part that needs to come forward and have its say, in order to be able to move on from these things, and in order to be able to clear both the beliefs and the emotional stuff. So, I I mean, honestly, all of it does boil down to the worthiness thing. So if you really kind of want to look at the root, then we would do something about not being worthy enough. But I would still also work on specific beliefs of, like, other women have more to offer than I do. Um, Everyone will always leave me. Things like that would be still really good beliefs to clear. Um, And if you really feel like it's abandonment, you can even change it to, everyone would abandon me.
Okay.
But leave or abandon, it's really whatever feels more authentic to you. So it's
I
not,
think both work, to be honest.
yeah.
Either way they're gonna leave, I feel like.
Yep. Right. So that's what needs to be addressed. So you'd be with the click tracks, you'd be addressing the emotion of all of that and freaking out about the what if they leave. With this belief tool, you're dealing with the very belief that that thing is going to continue to happen.
Okay.
So with belief blasters, it's a little bit different because you need to find a specific statement you want to be saying throughout the track. When you do belief blasters work on this, it needs to be stated in the past tense because you don't want to be saying a negative thing to yourself over and over again in the present tense, because you're going to be repeating it over and over to yourself, and it's not smart to be saying it now.
I don't need help
Yeah,
convincing myself the same thing I already think.
exactly. Yeah. So what you're acknowledging,
Sorry.
got a little furry friend over there.
Yes, he's being a stinker.
Um, what you would be doing is saying, I wasn't worthy enough. And you're not saying that just to like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. That's like up until 1 second ago, I wasn't worthy enough. So you don't need to say that statement, but that's just kind of what you're implying. By putting it in the past tense, you're kind of like, up until the beginning of this track, or up until 1 second ago, this is the belief that I've had. And then it also needs to be a certain length long.
Certain length long. Okay.
Yeah. So usually between 7 and 12 words long for a belief statement to clear. So you want to add, I had the belief that I wasn't worthy. And I don't like the statement worthy enough. I think it could be worthy of love. Or worthy of him, or something of that nature.
Okay.
Unless the word enough really has power for you.
I think it does. Because then it
Okay.
emphasizes everything and everyone, really, not just, a
Okay.
particular person.
All right. Yeah, that's fair enough. All right. So I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough.
The belief that I wasn't worried. Okay, perfect.
All right. So with belief blasters, there's no tapping. So
Oh, that's
it's a
good.
little bit of a different process. Basically, what you're doing is saying over and over again to yourself in a loop, silently in your head, I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough. I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough. Over and over and over and over. And at the same time, throughout the track, you're also trying to prove that that belief is true. So that's where you need to let the part of you that does believe that to really shine and come up and to offer all of the evidence, all of the proof, all of the examples in your life of where you haven't been worthy enough. So that will look very similar to what we were just talking about, where I was saying, you didn't feel worthy enough for your mother to pay attention to you anymore because she now had the stepfather, or you didn't feel worthy enough for your father to stay, and you don't feel worthy enough for your romantic partners to stay with you or put all their attention on you, whatever you need from them. And same thing with any friendships where you haven't felt worthy or you're feeling like you haven't measured up. And so it's just kind of like all of those examples through your life. And like you said, like if my own father couldn't even stay or, make me a priority, then why the hell would anybody else? Like that's kind of that's your evidence. Like that's going to be the proof that you're going to be offering up. So at the same time that you're saying, I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough, I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough, you're giving all of those examples of things where you haven't felt worthy or where people have treated you like you're not worthy. And he's just in your brain, unraveling it, making it nonsense to you. And so
Yeah.
that's pretty much the process. There's no
Okay.
tapping. It's not nearly as complicated as the click tracks. So it's just a matter of saying the statement over and over and trying your best to continue believing that negative statement throughout the track so that he, on his end, can help undo that for you.
Okay.
So you do not want to try to enlighten yourself or forgive anyone or try to put a positive spin on anything or any of that while you do this process, because he's doing that for you. So it's really your job to stay negative, to try
Stay
to,
negative.
yep. So try to keep believing that negative belief, try to keep proving that negative belief. Because the more you do that, the better it will work for him to be able to undo that for you.
Okay.
All right, so we will be right back once we've done a round or two of belief blasters on I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough. All right, we're back after round one of I had the belief that I wasn't worthy enough. So, Brooke, what did you experience with that round?
I feel that as the further it got into it, the the more, if it makes sense, the more difficult I had focusing on it because it was kind of fading away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so the best way to
So,
tell whether Belief Blasters is working or not is if the words start to disappear on you. So if you notice that you can't like even pull up half of the words in the statement anymore and you're going looking for like, what was it that I was even saying? That's a good sign that it's clearing. Or also
yes.
just like that feeling of, yeah, this belief doesn't really make sense to me anymore. Or your brain starts to give you proof to the opposite. Like your brain will
Yes.
start showing you all of the, places where you have been worthy or the reasons why you are worthy. So
Yes.
was any of that what was happening?
Definitely. So, while most of like I was trying my hardest to focus on the negative, but it kept bringing in, like you were saying, the positive of the situations that I was thinking of if someone cheated on me, that it brought in the positive of I am worthy, I do deserve, better than that, I didn't deserve that. It brought in like positive of how I was worthy in each situation and how I'm worthy of love, or because I was on the since I was saying I had the belief that I am not worthy, I in my mind I was kind of adding words on the end, if that makes sense. Like I'm not worthy of love from this person, or just the things that I was thinking of throughout my life. And it made um it almost like it's like changed my thinking, if that makes sense. To where I ended up thinking of I am worthy of this, I am worthy of this, I am worthy of this at the end. And I was like, that's way better to have in your mind than, I'm not worthy.
Right.
To have those
Yeah.
positive thoughts.
Yeah. So it's a really good sign that you got good clearance on that particular statement, that your brain was automatically trying to go there. Um, so for reference for the people at home, if they're doing this process, like you do want to try your best to stay focused on the negative while you're doing the process. But it's a good sign if your brain automatically starts pulling up positive examples just kind of out of the blue. So you don't want to go looking for those positive examples. You want to go looking for the negatives while you do this. But if your brain just automatically is like, that belief isn't true, look at this example, that's a good signal that your subconscious is now buying into how ridiculous that belief is
Yes.
and is showing you where that's not true. So that's perfect. The other thing that I saw, I looked up and saw that you were moving your lips a little bit to the statement, and that's good. That's actually, he does want you to be doing that. So you
Oh,
just
perfect.
automatically kind of started doing it right just by virtue of doing it. So if you're kind of mumbling it to yourself, like you don't have to actually make a noise, but if you're moving your lips to it, it helps you stay focused on the statement. And by the end, a lot of times you almost have to be doing that in order to keep
Definitely.
yourself focused on the statement. So
Yes, because the further in it got, I just was like, yeah, I kept getting lost. I was like, wait, what? What was it?
Yeah,
What am I supposed to be saying?
good. Perfect. That's awesome. So I would like to do maybe one more. Uh, and when I was just writing some notes down about this particular session, I wrote your name, and then right next to that, I wrote, I can't trust anyone.
Yes, that is me. If you look me up in the dictionary, that's what it will say.
So, why don't we clear the belief? I had the belief I couldn't trust anyone.
That'd be amazing. Let's do it.
All right. We'll be right back after we do I can't trust anyone. Okay, we are back from a round of I had the belief that I couldn't trust anyone. And what did you experience this round?
That was definitely an experience. At the end, I I almost forgot what I was saying because I don't know how it happens, but like, yeah, somehow he gets into my subconscious mind, and then I almost forgot my words. I was like, I what don't what? So that was good. That it was hard at the beginning because I was bringing up all those, all the memories of the trust and how people have hurt me, and so that was, kind of getting into a painful spot.
Right.
But then at the end, it definitely, you feel lighter. I don't know if that makes sense. You feel
Yeah.
like a relief, if that makes sense, also
Yeah.
at the
And
end.
it feels to me like I can feel a shift in your energy right now. Like when I came back from that round and tuned back into you, it was like I felt almost giddiness. So
Yes.
something definitely shifted in a big way there with that particular one. Still, if there's any emotion around that, I would still do a click track maybe to release whatever emotion is around that. But having shifted that as a belief is really beneficial because then you won't continually be going around telling yourself, oh, I can't trust anyone, nobody's trustworthy. So
Yes.
removing that as this repetitive self-statement is really, really valuable, but also clearing your emotions about all the times that people have broken your trust would also be
Definitely.
really beneficial. So, uh,
Definitely.
coming at it from both angles is definitely a good choice. So, I would still do that work
Perfect.
as well.
Sounds great. I will.
And, in between, because I would like to check back in with you in maybe a week or two to see, what kind of changes you've seen in your day to day life, as well as, what kind of progress you're seeing, you're like, what you're feeling inside, as well as if you're seeing any external changes at all. And then also just to troubleshoot anything that comes up. If you think of like, hey, I want to work on this particular thing around this, but I don't know exactly which tool to use on it, or, what the statement should be, or what kind of memories I should be thinking of to clear this. I'm happy to help with that as well. So if we can do a recap sometime soon, we'll set that up and maybe even get a little bit more background from your own story too, because I'd
Definitely.
love to hear more about you. And we just kind
Well,
of
there's,
we dove right into doing the work and didn't get really a lot of like your background story. So uh,
yes,
it's always interesting to hear people's stories, and I think that it may even be more powerful to share that in the context of it's already in the process of healing and changing. So
definitely.
I think it would be great to hear a little bit more from you
Yes,
about that stuff as well.
I have a lot to share. So
Everybody's got a story, and I love hearing people's
yes,
stories, and like especially when they're victory stories, being able to go, these are the things that I've been through, but these are also the things that I have overcome, and being
yes,
able to kind of change into inspiration instead of
definitely.
suffering. Yep,
Right. And be an inspiration for others then too, that this can happen.
exactly.
Right. I
Yes,
agree.
yes. So any other questions for me or anything before we close up for today?
No, not at all. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you back shortly.
Sounds great. Thank you.